Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, 4 persons feared killed as a 3-story building under construction collapses in Agric, Delta State. Emergency workers lament lack of equipment for rescue operations. Federal government moves to address anxiety over insecurity in the country as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo meets with some traditional rulers in the southwest. Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria reveals identity of man involved in the Lagos Airport runaway incursion, accepts responsibility for security breach. And UK asks Iran to reverse its illegal seizure of a British-flagged tanker in the Gulf, says action raises very serious questions about safety of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz.
On business news tonight, analysts forecast Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee may cut the benchmark interest rate at its next meeting next week.
And in sports news tonight, joyful fans troop out into the streets of Algiers to welcome Algeria's victorious Africa Cup of Nations team back home for a parade.
There's been another building collapse today with 4 persons killed and several others injured. This time in Agric area of Ethiop East local government area in Delta State, where the 3-story building caved in this morning. The building, which is said to be a hotel under construction, is located along Agwana Avenue in Agric. Eyewitnesses say that the 4 persons who died in the building collapse were construction workers. Rescue and emergency officials have been busy combing the rubble to rescue several others who were said to be trapped.
This morning we had a distress call that this building collapsed. So we rushed down. We've been here since 8 a.m. and we had to wait for the excavator to get down here. And so far we've discovered 2 corpses, but we've not been able to bring them out. That's what's going on now. We've seen the head and another one, the beam has dropped on him. So, but we're told that there are 4 of them there. So we are trying to see if we can get them out. We'll try our best, but we've been having some logistic problems. One is even getting this excavator from Warri to this point, but hopefully, I'm sure we'll get them out. This environment, we should have an emergency response on ground. That's the challenge we've been facing. So we've been trying to improvise with whatever we have here to achieve it.
The federal government is consulting with leading traditional rulers across the country to find a lasting solution to the security crisis in the country and how to better secure their communities. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is the one leading the consultations on the directive of the President, Muhammadu Buhari, and he started the process today with a visit to the Awujale of Ijebuland, Oba Sikiru Adetona, and the Akarigbo of Remo, Oba Babatunde Ajayi. Professor Osinbajo told the traditional rulers that the President has often spoken about the role of the traditional rulers in maintaining peace and security in their own locality, and that the federal government would expect that there would be some interventions between the traditional rulers and the police on some of the efforts they are making to improve intelligence to fully understand the security situation. The Vice President was accompanied by the Ogun State Governor, and he's expected to continue the consultations next week.
The consultations continue. We intend to continue the discussions, but very importantly is his commitment to ensuring that there is peace and security, and that everybody who lives in all of our neighborhoods and localities and communities live in peace with each other, and that security is kept, and that we maintain the highest levels of security.
The federal government says it is working to douse the security tension in the country and give Nigerians the assurance that they are safe. From the suspension of the controversial Ruga settlement program to the launch of Operation Pofada, and more recently the consultation with the traditional rulers, the federal government seems ready to march words with action. Our next report takes a look at the ongoing efforts to calm frayed nerves and guarantee the safety of lives and property in the country.
The sustainability of agriculture and pastoral production in the country is currently being threatened by various factors, leading to a struggle over resources such as land, water, and pasture. This has led to conflicts between farmers and herders, resulting in killings across the country. Plateau State is one of the states in north-central region worst hit by decades of communal conflict between predominantly farming communities and cattle herders. According to a report released by Human Rights Watch Group, between January and March 2018, over 1,078 people have been killed in herders-farmers crisis in Plateau, Benue, Kaduna, Taraba, Nasarawa, Adamawa, Kwara, and Kogi states. The report reveals that in Benue State alone, 102,000 children, 60% of the 169,922 people displaced by the conflict, have been forced out of school. Recently, fears over the possibility of more conflicts heightened with the announcement of the commencement of the Ruga settlement program for cattle herders in the country by the Ministry of Agriculture. The news was greeted with opposition, especially from the southern part of the country, where many described the Ruga plan as an attempt to grab ancestral land from their owners.
All lands belong to the state government. So it's only the state government that has the right to give land to whoever he pleases. And the locals are holding that land in trust for the state government.
Although the presidency explained some of the gains of the program to include job creation, access to credit facilities, security for pastoral families, and curtailment of cattle rustling, the outcry over the plan refused to die down.
Why is it that we fail to take our models from successful performers? There are ways in which people deal and have dealt for decades, for centuries with cattle everywhere. I travel everywhere. There's nothing so strange, nothing mysterious about cattle rearing. Why should cattle become a problem just because we like to eat beef?
Prompting the call by the Northern Elders Forum to Fulani herders to leave the southern part of the country. That call appeared to signal a dangerous dimension to the controversy, compelling the intervention of President Muhammadu Buhari, who ordered the suspension of the Ruga plan and asked the Fulani herders to ignore the call to leave the south. For the president, quote, "No one has the right to ask anyone or group to depart from any part of the country, whether north, south, east, or west. They have no one's authority to make such pronouncements." The polarizing role of the Northern Elders Forum and all those other groups dabbling into issues of security to score cheap political points has for long been a sore point in Nigeria's body politic. End of quote.
It is not about politics, religion, or tribe. It is about having a Nigeria where our families will be safe and our children will have plentiful opportunities to earn a living and have comfortable life.
That intervention seemed to have calmed frayed nerves, in addition to the call by the governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, to all cattle herders to take advantage of the opportunities being created by his administration in the establishment of Ruga settlement in his state.
We believe when the herdsmen convert here in Kano, it will be a good omen for the people of Kano State.
With all these, Nigerians will be waiting and watching to see how the handling of the Ruga settlement program, as well as the proposed National Livestock Transformation Plan, will help to douse the prevailing tension and crisis between herders and farmers in the country.
Let's examine the issue of insecurity, especially regarding its potential to create distrust amongst the citizens. And I'm now being joined live from our Abuja studios by the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Abari. Must thank you so much indeed for joining us on the News at 10. Let's begin with the recent announcement of the plans to establish Ruga settlements in different parts of the country that has triggered tensions, as you do remember. Do you think that the way that issue came to light was properly handled?
Well, thank you very much. Very good evening. I think it is a program that has been very well thought out, and it still remains the only one of the most sustainable ways by which we can ensure there is peace and there is harmony between herders and the farmers in this country in an era of climate change where there is so much of competition between water and the green grass and the land. The president, being a listening man, decided to suspend the program so that proper or wider consultation, not proper, but wider consultation is being undertaken to allay the fears. Because this is a program of government which is purely for those that are willing to partake in. And of course, there are quite a number who are willing to partake in. That it has got nothing to do with colonization of the land of anybody. It has got nothing to do with colonization. It has got nothing to do with cows, as some of our elder statesmen are always have reduced the matter to. It is not only about livestock. This is about national peace. This is about national development. This is about job creation. This is about a homespun, an internally generated mechanism by Nigerians to address a problem which is not only peculiar to Nigeria, but which has a Nigerian content, and we can develop our own Nigerian response mechanism to address it. So to this extent, I think we are on course. The government is on course. The National Orientation Agency on Tuesday is calling on a very broad spectrum of stakeholders to talk and engage and interrogate the issues before we come into the public domain with all the advantages and the disadvantages, if there is any, or allay the fears of Nigerians where such fears need to be allayed so that we can move forward. Because politicians have already reduced this issue to politics, and a lot of ethnic, a lot of religious, a lot of sectional issues have been brought in. This very well properly thought out public policy is being made really to suffer. And this is not good for our country. This is not good for our generation. This is not good for generation yet to come. For as long as we reduce public policy and strip it of its greater benefits to the majority of the people, and
if I may
reduce it only to within the prison of ethnicity and the sectionalism and the regionalism and what have you, then to that same extent shall we continue to stifle development in this country.
Okay, even though I haven't come across it, I'm just wondering if you've made some kind of propagative instrument to ensure that people from different segments of this country, different tribes, different religions have an understanding of where the NOA, where you stand on this issue and how to propagate the right kind of messages such that we have the fostering of unity to be deeply ingrained. But let me get your views on this. The Kano State government seems to be making fresh suggestions by offering to provide a large expanse of land that could help resolve this Rugal controversy. Do you think his call to all herders to come to Kano is a way to go?
Well, this is actually not exactly the way to go, but I think the Kano State government or the Kano State governor is responding to some of these issues that have now characterized national debate around how to bring about peaceful coexistence between herders and farmers. Now, he is also responding, and I think this is, and I hope I am reading him correctly, responding to this very tenuous relationships that politicians have allowed to emerge and to guide the debate. Perhaps it's not the way to go. Perhaps when Fulanis are being asked to go back to northern Nigeria, and you know, naturally there could be other things that will also follow. My advice, and of course a very humble call to politicians across the divide and the statesmen across the divide, is to definitely put national interest ahead of parochial and the primordial interests, so that we together look at national calamities, rally around one another, and address national calamities as other nations address calamities afflicting them as a nation. Insecurity breeds all manner of things. Lack of peaceful coexistence breeds more tense relationships, and it stifles development and the greater national objectives.
I think that's a good place to
continue, and this is what the National Orientation Agency is trying to achieve by the Tuesday gathering.
I must thank you so much. That's a good place to let it rest. The Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Abari, thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts on the Ruga controversy with us here on the News at 10. In part 2, after the break, the Department of Petroleum Resources continues its clampdown on fraudulent dealers in petroleum products as it seals more fuel stations across the country. Stay with us.